At the end of the day, if you want to read more, you're going to have to sacrifice some things, and to me, Netflix is a sacrifice I am willing to make. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Angela Ann, the friend of all the great YA book recs and literary lifestyle tips. Today I'm going to be going over some of the tips I use to make time to read, no matter how crazy and hectic my life gets. For those of you who don't know, along with making booktube videos, I also have a book talk, a bookstagram. I write novels. I'm hoping to get published very soon. And I work 2 jobs. I'm a full-time university student who's also doing an honors thesis, and I have a life outside of all of that too. So I am a crazy busy person, meaning that sometimes it gets very hard to find time to read. Today I wanted to share the 8 things I do to make time to read no matter how busy life gets. And warning here, sometimes when life gets very busy, I only read like 2 books a month, but 2 books a month is still more than 0 books a month, and so these tips help even when life is that busy. Tip number 1 is the trickle down process that I use for all my goals, writing related, reading related, or other, and that is to set annual goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, and daily goals. So for reading, I set an annual goal. This year, my goal is to read 52 books or 1 book a week. From there, I decide what my monthly goals are going to be. And some months I can read more books than others, so I don't always just read 4 books, 1 a week, every single month. For example, January was a little bit more chill for me, so I actually set the goal of reading 7 books in January. February was very hectic, so I set the goal of only reading 3 books. And so on and so forth. Once I have my monthly goal set, and I don't set the monthly goals ahead of time, I set it like 1 month at a time, if that makes sense. I don't map out, okay, in January I'm gonna read this many books, in December I'm gonna read this many books, all at the beginning of the year. It's just January, and then when January's over, February, March, you know, like that. And once I have those monthly goals set out, every single week I look at what I have on the agenda for that week, and I set a weekly reading goal. When I do my monthly reading goals, sometimes I create TBR videos, but if you've ever watched any of my TBR videos, you know that I don't like having a very strict monthly TBR, and that reflects itself in the fact that I have a very strict weekly reading TBR. So week to week I decide what books I'm gonna want to read. My monthly TBRs are more books than I plan to read just so I have some selections, but my weekly ones are very set. And then from there I create daily reading goals, which are usually page count goals. Having goals at every level is definitely the key to getting lots of things done, including more reading. Tip 2 is another thing I do which relates to planning, and that is to write down my reading goals. Write it down in your planner, in your to-do list, in your Google Calendar, anywhere you write down goals, include your reading goals. Yes, reading is fun, but if it's written down, it's also like a commitment, if that makes sense. So I find for me personally, I'm much more likely to read a book if I have it written down on my weekly to-do list versus if I just say, oh yeah, I'm gonna read a book and don't write it down anywhere. In fact, recently I've started actually having a box. I have a word count tracker for how much writing or editing I do in my planner, and now I've added another box into my planner, which is a page count tracker where I count how many pages I read a day. So having a way that you can keep yourself accountable within whatever planning system you use is a great way to get more reading done. The next tip is a very hard one, but a very crucial one, and that is to put your phone on airplane mode. Sometimes I don't even have my phone in the same room with me when I'm reading just because I get so distracted by it. Eliminate any distractions you possibly can when you're reading, and you'll probably end up reading more. Another practice kind of related to that I implement a lot is every other Saturday, I actually turn off my phone and my computer completely for 1 afternoon. And during that afternoon, I spend it reading and journaling and doing things that are away from technology. This can be a really great way to get more reading done. So consider having a no tech afternoon or a no tech day if you're in a position where you have that luxury, and see how much reading you get done. My 4th tip is to replace Netflix with reading time. This is a very hard one for me. And a couple of years ago in 2019, I had a no Netflix during the weekdays rule. That rule kind of went out the window in 2020 because 2020, but I am planning on bringing it back in 2021. So far in 2021, I've had no Netflix on weekdays rule. So weekdays for me is Sunday through Thursday. So it's like the nights before a weekday, if that makes sense. So I can only watch Netflix on Fridays and Saturdays. That reserves a lot more time to get reading done, and reading is something I value over Netflix. At the end of the day, if you want to read more, you're going to have to sacrifice some things, and to me, Netflix is a sacrifice I am willing to make. But again, this can take a lot of willpower, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at it or that I always follow this rule. Sometimes I do break it, but I try not to. The sixth tip is one that I am not very good at because I am such a morning person and I always fall asleep early, but it is to read past your bedtime. Even just carving out a little bit of time before you go to sleep that is devoted for reading can be a really great way to read more books. For me, what this looks like is I start to shut down everything around 8:30 p.m. Again, I wake up at 5 a.m., so 8:30 p.m. Moral of the story, I'm a grandma, so maybe it looks a little later for you, but around 8:30 p.m. I start to shut down everything and I do my emotional freedom tapping for my anxiety and personal development. I also then read whatever book I am currently reading. Carving out a time during the day is a great way to get reading done. I find nighttime works really well just because I don't have a running to-do list of everything I need to do that day because all the tasks for that particular day are already done. My seventh tip is to carry a book with you everywhere. I feel like this is a very common tip, and every time I hear it, I think of Rory Gilmore from Gilmore Girls carrying a book with her everywhere. She carries multiple books of her everywhere, and that's just kind of me, to be honest. You never know when you're gonna get a spare moment, when you're gonna show up early to a meeting, when you're gonna be in traffic, whatever it may be. So if you have a book on you, then you're more likely to read the book instead of mindlessly scrolling on social media. This is a really great way to read more because I think a lot of times with things like reading or writing, we think we need to have this giant block of time in order to make it effective, but pages read are still pages read, whether they're read in little 5-minute increments throughout the day or in 1 hour at the end of the day. So don't discredit those little pockets of time, and you won't discredit them if you always have a book nearby. My eighth tip is to surround yourself with bookish content. This might seem a little bit odd, but at least for me, whenever I'm trying to build a habit, I'm always more likely to do it if I'm constantly surrounded by other people who are doing that same habit. Even if you don't have book friends in real life, because I don't have a lot of friends that are very bookwormy in real life, you can still make this work because we have the gift of social media and the interwebs today. Right now, you're already kind of doing this tip, so congrats because you are watching this video. This is a booktube channel, so subscribing to booktube channels can be a great way to kind of surround yourself with more bookish things. In fact, this is kind of odd, but whenever I want to read but I'm not in the mood to read, a lot of times I'll go and I'll find a reading vlog from one of my favorite booktubers and I'll watch that 10 to 20 minute reading vlog to get myself in the mood to read. I don't know what it is, but watching other people's reading process really makes me want to read, so that might work for you as well. There's also, of course, other resources such as Bookstagram, Book Talk, Book Pinterest, book blogs, book podcasts that can also get you in the mood to read. So just think outside the box here. Just because you don't have in real life friends that like to read doesn't mean you can't surround yourself with content related to that. And I don't know, maybe this won't work for everyone, but it just works for me so well. I always believe that whatever we consume is who we are. It's a huge part of who we are, not just food-wise, but also content-wise. When you open up Instagram, if it's a picture of a book, you're more likely to read than if it's a picture of some person smiling that has nothing to do with books or anything you want to do in your life. So, wow, that was passionate. But basically, surround yourself with the type of content and things you want to do, including book content. I hope you enjoyed these 8 tips. If I'm being honest, what these really boil down to is that you have to make time for reading and the things that you want to do. Life has to be intentional if you want to do stuff like read more books. So when you become more intentional, when you carve out time to do it, when you eliminate the distractions, when you surround yourself in the right type of environment, you are going to thrive and read more books. Let me know in the comments down below if there are any tips that I missed or any tips I didn't mention that you personally use to help you read more books. If you enjoyed this video and want more booktube content in your life, I would greatly appreciate if you'd subscribe and like this video. Other than that, I will see you in my next video and down in the comments.